If you've spent the last few months watching TikToks of people picking up their kids from carpool while their little AI assistants build out an entire content strategy, draft their emails, update their CRMs, and somehow also design a beautiful sales page, and it's left you thinking, wait, did I miss the bus on this? How do I do this? Am I dumb? Because why can't I figure this out? This episode is for you. One, because I have been there. I have been you. I have opened Claude. I have opened chat, and I have spent hours trying to get a decent caption out of it, make the robots do what everybody else is saying. It's this magic tool. And I ultimately had ended up being in this space where I was like, I can just do this myself. This is just faster if I do it myself. And then entered Jess. Jess, I have seen do the impossible inside of Claude. Stuff that I genuinely thought would require a software developer or a level of genius that maybe my brain just doesn't have access to. And today she's going to walk us through step by step how she has processed it out to get to that point where you have AI assistants doing things for you. And we're going to talk about how you can do it without needing a degree in prompt engineering and without really burning away all of this not extra time that we all have in our lives. So welcome back to Growing a Deeply Rooted Business. I'm Rachel, your marketing ecosystem strategist, and I'm sitting here with the robot whisperer herself, Jess.
All right. So yes, hi, I'm Jess. I help solopreneurs and tiny teams grow sustainable systems so businesses can run themselves without running the owner and the team into the ground. And for the last months or really years though, I've been deep into AI, but most recently I have gotten into AI agent training. So this episode is straight from the trenches. I'm going to be sharing about how I am growing my growing team of AI assistants that's allowing me to not only get productive, but generate more revenue in my business. And then also save a little bit of money by not having to outsource as much. So I'm super excited to share kind of everything that I've learned and make it accessible for non-techie people.
Yeah, so before we go any further, we're going to all take a collective deep breath. And if you are listening to this on Thursday morning when it comes out with half your coffee done, and maybe you have more than an amount of tabs open, and you're maybe living someplace between the I should be working or I need a nap because, yes, same. We're going to drop our shoulders and unclench our jaw and just dive into this episode with an open mind and really see the possibilities of this next stage of business. So it is really exciting. Let's dive in.
Okay, so before we get into the framework, I first want to kind of go into what is the difference between ChatGPT or Cowork or Claude Chat and Agentic AI or Claude Cowork, because they're not the same things, and chat is great, but you really want to think of chat as more of your brainstorming partner. You open a window, you ask it a question, and it basically really fast helps you kind of work through a strategy or generate copy or whatever. And if AI chat is the brain, then Agentic AI is your hands. It doesn't just answer, it can work in your tools, through your tools, go pull memory from your tools. It can give itself feedback. It can fix its own work. It can do tasks scheduled while you're not even there and then ping you when it's ready for review. And this is the version of AI that is saving me hours a week. And this is the version of AI when I share outputs of it creating a beautiful brand deck in Canva or a 90-page workbook, or it's scheduling emails or pulling old podcast episodes. This is the part that people are like, how the F did you do that? So that's what we're going to go into, how you use it today. And also my framework for systematically doing it, because it is really easy to get that AI overwhelmed. I have to ban myself from TikTok because as a power user as I am, there's always new things happening, new things coming up. So one of the things that I've done is block TikTok. And then right now I'm going all in on Claude because every single tool out there now, Kit or Kajabi has AI tools, but I've found that keeping it to this one workspace is really helping to build an actual support infrastructure versus a one-off dilly-dallying in AI.
Yeah, and we want to name this before we get even further into the episode. I know there's this ethical dilemma when it comes to AI. This is not about replacing the humans on your team or limiting you from providing jobs for your community or whatever the case may be. I don't want you to think of this as firing people. We all exist, and especially Jess and I, in these small, tiny team, minimal margin type businesses where the margin that is going to our salaries and are paying us is what we want to really preserve. And so think of this as working smarter and not harder, because a lot of us are already doing the 8 jobs that could potentially be hired out, but we're not, right? So if you still have that mindset of saying, I'm probably not going to hire a social media manager, I'm probably not going to hire an ops manager to manage my CRM, but it's still going to weigh on you as a business owner. It's still going to fall on the burden for you and as a person that's going to have to take those tasks. So I want you to kind of feel it in that perspective versus trying to understand this endless AI is going to exist regardless of if you use it or not. How you exist in your business is what you can control. So if you already know you're not going to hire somebody for this position, but you still want to provide and take hours off your plate to do it, this is where we're talking about. So balancing that and adding that little bit of a preface before we dive into the episode.
Yeah, and I would say even take it further. One of the criteria for really good customized non-generic AI outputs is having a human touch first. So a lot of the way that I'm using AI is for recurring tasks that I'm done over and over, that I've either paid a strategist or a brand designer to kind of come in and set the baseline, and AI is helping me use that strategy or that brand design or whatever they've created for me to keep kind of getting results without me having to start from scratch. So getting into it, number one, where do you even start? You're on TikTok and you're seeing people do everything with AI. So it can be really, really easy to go down different rabbit holes that are not actually useful for you. Believe me, I did it. I was super excited about it for a week, but I built this whole AI chief of staff that was custom for my ADHD. And it took me a really long time, but did it generate anything in my business daily? No, because it really wasn't helping me unblock those revenue things that I was in the bottleneck of, or the things that I'm kind of doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, I always get targeted of the planners, and I am an ADHD brain type person that has, I think half of these books back here are planners that I've gotten halfway through and then abandoned and never looked back. So really one of those things is that know where, and maybe this is jumping the gun here, but know what you actually need, because you don't always need another cute planner. So keep that top of mind as we go into step 1.
Yeah, so really some questions you can ask to start off. What skill do I start up with? Where does the work tend to pile up every single week, no matter how great of intentions are? What is causing you the most amount of friction in your business that AI can help you unlock? So one of the things that I know Rachel shared with me too, and I had a VA that actually used to do this to me, was just taking my meeting transcripts and pulling out all the information that I needed and pulling out the task and plugging it into my task calendar. So that was kind of one of the first really useful AI teammates that I made, was Miles, where he goes in and he checks my Google Calendar every single day, looks at the meetings I have for that day and the day before, and he pulls context from previous meeting notes for me. And then after the meeting, he goes and grabs the transcript and pulls out all the tasks and puts them into my task manager. That is something that I used to, pay for, or I used to have to do it myself. A lot of days I'll have back to back to back to back to back meetings. So this saves me so much time because I'm not having to be like, oh, what did I say I was going to do? And when did I commit to get that done? Miles is doing it all for me.
Yeah, it may seem so insignificant, and maybe just to me as a neurodivergent business owner, like I'll say, oh yeah, I'm going to go and like put these tasks in, and then I get distracted and those tasks are still just stuck in my brain. And then at my last final admin hour of the day, I'm like, oh, let's try to get that. Let's go put those tasks in. And 9 times out of 10, what happens is that I'm essentially self-sabotaging my future self because I didn't put them while I remembered them. They didn't ever make it out into the external brain. So this may seem so insignificant, but it's actually a huge bottleneck that people are currently setting themselves up to just fail over and over again, which brings us to the second question, which is what is being swept under the rug? And this is the stuff that you mean to do, never actually do. Nobody's really going to call you out on. This can directly connect back to that task drop when I had hired Jess to be in my business and essentially help me manage my chaos. This is one of those things she did call me out on. She's, where are your tasks? And I said, oh, just kidding. They're still stuck in my brain. So this could be all of those things that truly are going to move the needle, but maybe in a smaller type way, right? Those lead magnet captions that you should be writing, the newsletter resends, that audit you said you were going to do internally for your own business, all of these things that really just make a difference, but not loud enough in order for you to feel that urgency.
Yeah. And a lot of times what AI can do is kind of what I used to manually do for my clients is that it just gets you started. So for a lot of my clients, when they're writing their launch copy, I will get started with a draft for them. And then they just need to go in and put their expertise, their experience, make it their own. So for me, newsletters were always a thing, just kind of getting it started, pulling in all the different information that I need. So I have a newsletter agent now that goes through and pulls up our latest podcast episode and goes through and looks at what offers I said I'm selling this month and begins to at least outline and dump all the links and all those kind of annoying things to bring into. And it creates a newsletter draft and drops it into my Notion. So that way, when I go to create my newsletter for the week, it is right there waiting for me, 65% done, and I just kind of have to go finish it. And I'm getting pinged that it's there. So it's that reminder too that, and the accountability to actually go do it.
Yeah. So then the third question you should be looking at when it comes to all of these areas is what is it that you actively are avoiding or dreading? And this is one of those things that I will use myself as an example again. I love writing content. I love producing in the sense of getting my ideas out of my brain and putting them in a way that can connect with people. What I hate doing is scheduling and designing that content. So I have probably an entire book worth of copy and content that would shine and love the place in the limelight. However, it always bottlenecks right at designing it because I spend so much time in my head, all of those really tedious things that it wastes so much more time. So maybe that's scheduling and designing content for me. What if it's categorizing receipts for you or repetitive admin work, things along those lines that really do make your brain just say, not going to happen. I would rather be on 5 hours worth of calls than do this type of task. Those are the areas that really can add value and benefit solving that bottleneck.
Yeah. So moving on to the step 2, once you've identified what skills or what employees you're going to build first, you really need to go in with a documented standard of how you do this. So AI basically needs 4 things to give you really good outputs that are not generic, and that is context on you, your business goals. So this is why I teach everyone to build an external business brain, so that not only is this a training document that you can give to your employees, but you can also give it to your AI. It also needs intention. Why are you creating this? What is the goal of whatever you're creating? What are you hoping to accomplish? Second, it needs to know your tone, your voice. Again, that's where this business brain comes in, where you have examples of your writing styles or emails or how you respond to clients so that it knows and it can sound more like you on the first pass. We do advocate for human first and last touch, but we're trying to get it as close to possible on the first pass. And then the fourth thing is expectation. So what does good look like? Can you give an example of, a blog post that you wrote or a proposal that you sent to a client of how you want it to output every single time? And basically what all of that is, just SOP that you would create for an employee, you're creating this for your AI assistant.
Yeah. And so this is a step that if you're skipping and you go to say, Claude, give me this workflow or write me this launch email, and you get that output back that you're like, waste of my time, doesn't sound like me. This is the part that solves that, because you're essentially having to regurgitate every single thing back to the AI. And that's where really making sure that this work is established and just said very well documented beforehand, so that you, one, save yourself time, but also get better outputs from your AI conversations and sessions and all of that.
Yeah, and this is where becoming really organized, which I'm not a naturally organized person, but using AI and using these robots and having everything organized to where you can say, it's in my Notion deeply rooted business docs, go reference this, or it's here, has been so much more helpful for me. And obviously you would need that if you're delegating to an employee. So basically the moral of this story is stop treating these chatbots like they are a software tool and start treating them like an employee. In addition to providing them, all of the ground foundational documents they need to do their job right, you need to provide them feedback. And that's really where Claude skills shine, because you can go back and forth with it while you're using the skill in the conversation. And then once you get to that output you want, you can say, hey, can you update, your skill document so that next time we get this output faster? And basically, it's a really good employee that doesn't forget the feedback that you gave, because it's putting it in a file and storing it away somewhere where you can kind of remember it. So it's only going to get better the more and more that you use it and refine it. Yeah. So I think I just accidentally moved into step 3.
Okay, literally wrap it up really quick. This is something that I've also seen where, like, for myself, I've wasted so much money hiring people to come in and do something, and it's the same output, right? I give them a very low effort task that's, or not low effort task, but low information supplied to them. And then it's, oh, why am I sitting here having to correct this and do this and this? When you are trying to get an output that is of value, you have to, like Jess said, treat it like an employee. Because if you were to do this to a human, they're going to have 100 million questions. They're going to waste your time because they're going to give you the wrong task deliverable back and all of that. So really treat it not as if it's going to know everything from the get, and really do have to be super intentional in that, or else it's going to be the same problem if you do hire someone thinking they're going to solve all your problems, and then, or if you do deliver it or drop it into a chat and hope for it to solve your problems. It's the same bottleneck that is foundational to businesses, which is having that SOP, having that knowledge base, all of that externalized from your brain.
Yeah, so we just moved into step 3 without saying anything, but it's build, test, give feedback, iterate it again, and make sure that you save it. The cool part about Claude Cowork is once you get that skill dialed in, you can start skill or task stacking in a way that you can do an entire workflow. So what we have here basically stacked is that, we script our podcast, we record it, but I have a Claude skill that goes into the script and pulls the transcript and drops it in Notion. And then the next day I have a different skill that grabs the transcript from Notion and drops it into our tool content shroud and gets all the content and pings me when it's ready. And then I move that back into Notion. And then the next day, the carousel builder comes in and searches my Notion for carousels. That means gets made and does that. And then I can go and tweak the design and post them and then schedule them. But basically just kind of an employee where I'm inserting myself into the different points of the workflow. That's kind of what you'll have to do. It's not going to do everything. And I think any person that promises is going to do from A to Z, you're not even going to have to touch it. That's not realistic, because that's not how you would run an employee either. You need to kind of have those human insertion points.
Yeah. And for anybody that's feeling like, whoa, overwhelmed, because anytime Jess creates a new skill, I'm like, what did you just say? And what are you talking about? Maybe let's take one step back and say, when you are running all of this, these are ran as skills in Claude, right? These are the same equivalent to a custom GPT or a saved prompt inside of chat. I want to make sure that this is the ultimate goal is just not starting from scratch. So just adding that layer of context so that we all are, from the non-techie brain over here, saying that it's not like you're sitting in there and doing all of this. This is saved prompts that are building and compounding on top of each other.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's just recap our 3-step framework because we know we covered a lot today. So, one, you're going to want to find your bottleneck, not what someone's showing you on TikTok. What does your business actually need to move it forward and to unlock that next level for you or free up your capacity? Next, you're going to document your standards in an SOP format or using the site framework that I shared today. And then step 3, you want to build and test and give feedback just like you would an employee that you're onboarding. And then make sure that you save and update your skill into Claude or ChatGPT or wherever, or save it in your prompt library so that you can call on it again. And that is kind of how you begin to systemize AI in a way that's actually saving you time and not just becoming a giant time suck in your business.
Yep. So if this episode got you fired up about building maybe your own team of AI assistants, but the idea of writing that foundational business brain or building that first skill makes you want to just go crawl underneath the table and hide, we've got you here. We have built something called the Life First Business Lab, where every Monday you get a brand new AI assistant, aka skill, delivered straight to your inbox where you can drag it, drop it, and install it in less than 10 minutes. It's trained on our best practices. It's already infused to be Rachel proof, which means if I can do it, you can do it. And these are all of Jess's and my actual frameworks from over collectively running our businesses over time. It's a beautiful thing where you immediately, when you buy it, you get your first foundational skill up front where you build that external brain for yourself. Within 5-10 minutes, you're off at answering questions and it's populating and creating things over time. And every single skill that you add on top of it is pulling the context from that business brain. So it is truly has changed my business. It is one of those things that it's saves you so much time. So full details, pricing, list of the skills that you're gonna get on day one are linked in the show notes.
This is the most excited I've ever been about giving something to the general public because I see that this is needed so much. Every time I share something cool that I did online, everyone's like, well, how did you do that? How did you do that? And knowing that a lot of my clients, they're dietitians, they're wellness practitioners, they know about the gut. They do not want to be a software prompt engineer. And being able to build this out for them and give them a good foundational skill. And yes, you're going to chat by with it. It's going to onboard every single employee so that you can customize that skill to your preferences. They're trained to do that for you. But I have tech proofed or non-tech brain proofed this. I built this for Rachel. I built this for, my dietitian clients. And I know that's going to be so useful for anyone. So I know I rambled up over there, but I'm super excited about this. Okay. So if this episode hit home, make sure that you share it with a business bestie, especially the ones that have been struggling with AI. She thinks it's not for them. Maybe it's a time suck. And she just needs somebody to help unlock this for them. And if you have a particular skill that you want to see show up in the lab, DM us, let us know what we'd unclog your bottleneck for you. And until next week, we are
rooting for you.